A long time coming, but the Tide finally arrived in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl on Saturday afternoon. We also have a crew on the ground in the Crescent City, and we'll talk about the Sugar Bowl for the next 30 minutes on Tider Insider TV, which starts right now.
Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
Well, it only took a fourth consecutive year of winning at least 11 games, but Nick Saban has finally captured an elusive Coach of the Year honor. He wins the Dodd Trophy today, becoming the second Alabama coach to win the award along with Bill Curry. The award also takes into account all the charitable work in the community that Coach Saban does. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. I am not Gary Harris. I am PJ Millican. We know where Gary is, but we do have to do the traditional Gary Harris.
We'll try. Now this
Absolutely.
may explode.
These might explode. These are a little rough. Oh, we got it. You got it?
There you go.
We got it. Cheers. There you go. Thank you to Buffalo Rock, as always. Pepsi next, right?
Pepsi next. Half the calories. We need to mention that.
Half the calories. Well, we do know where Gary Harris is. Gary Harris down in New Orleans joins us now. Gary, a lot of fun on trips like this, but a lot of work too, right?
BJ, you're absolutely right on both counts. It has been a lot of fun here in New Orleans, but also a lot of work. In fact, I think I'm suffering from sleep deprivation. We've been starting early and going late every night, but hey, I'm not complaining. It has been a tremendous amount of fun. And today was probably the funnest day that we've had yet, because it was the All-State Sugar Bowl Media Day. And what does that mean? Well, very simply, it's an opportunity that we very rarely get in this business anymore. Both teams, Ohio State and Alabama, had their entire rosters and coaching staffs on the playing field of the Superdome for 1 hour. An hour for Alabama and an hour for Ohio State. And during that time period, you had an opportunity to talk to anybody that you could catch up with. The head coaches, of course, had stages set up, as did some of the top players and starters, but even the reserves and freshmen were seated, and you could go talk to them, and if you could catch up with the assistant coaches, you could talk with them. So it was a free-for-all, if you will. But when all is said and done, the two most popular men on the floor of the Sugar Bowl were the head coaches, Nick Saban and Urban Meyer. Here's Nick Saban talking about what a thrill it is to be a part of this All-State Sugar Bowl in the National Football Playoff.
If you're an SEC person, it's always a special treat to be able to be a part of the Sugar Bowl. The University of Alabama and the Sugar Bowl have a great tradition and history of, I think this is our 14th appearance here, and a lot of great tradition in all that for a lot of years. And the city of New Orleans and the people of the Sugar Bowl we really appreciate their efforts and hospitality and how they treated us, and it's been a good week for us.
Sunday's like a Tuesday's, Monday's like a Sunday. I lost track. All I know is today is Thursday, and very mature team. I mean, it's unusual to say that when they're as young as they are, but they handled their business, and the Sugar Bowls have been fantastic. And so it's been a great week, and I think we're pretty close to game ready.
And speaking of having fun, we are going to have a lot of it tomorrow night with a special New Year's Eve edition of Crimson Tide Kickoff, live from Tuscaloosa and New Orleans from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock p.m. So make sure and spend the early part of your New Year's Eve evening with us. I'll be live here in New Orleans from the fabulous Riverwalk. Special guests, interviews, features, and BJ and Jen Chapman will be back in Tuscaloosa in the studio. So we are going to have a jam-packed Crimson Tide Kickoff All-State Sugar Bowl preview tomorrow night on New Year's Eve from 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock p.m. It is going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to rejoining you guys in just a little bit from here in New Orleans. That's going to do it for now. Let's go back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Gary. Like you said, we'll check back in just a minute. Hopefully he won't get away to Bourbon Street between now and then.
I always wonder, you talked about your early hours. I wonder what he's going to be doing late hours tomorrow night.
We probably don't need to go into it. Well, you know, we've had some time to kind of digest the matchup, a long time it feels like. Now that we've seen kind of how these teams are treating this week, kind of very businesslike on both sides, who comes into this thing with the upper hand on Thursday, you think?
In what way? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you know, there's so many ways to look at it. I think I know what you're asking, though, in terms of, you know, look, Urban Meyer's been there. He's won 2 national championships. We know Nick Saban's track record. Both of these guys know how to prepare teams for big games. So, I mean, the difference is that really when you look at it, although Nick Saban does have somewhat of a young team compared to what, you know, they had been in the past as we entered this season, you have to look at Ohio State and say, you know, this is really their first time here with these players. They've never really experienced this. Alabama does have some holdover players that have experienced a lot of big games like this. So if you want to look at it in that way, maybe Alabama has somewhat of an advantage, BJ. But both of these coaches, again, have been here. They've done that. They know how to prepare their teams.
Absolutely. Now here's a look at how it looks on paper, of tail of the tape. Really an evenly matched game when you look at a lot of the numbers. Urban Meyer's offense with some great numbers. Nick Saban's defense with some great numbers as well. Hey, much more coming up on TITV, including a lot of former Alabama players making big impacts in the NFL. That's nothing new. We say that every week. And also, we're going to head back to down to New Orleans, head down to New Orleans even. Gary Harris will let us hear from Alabama's offensive and defensive coordinators as we get ready for the Sugar Bowl. Also coming up, as always, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the information right there on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead and give us a call, send us an email or a tweet. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide in New Orleans. Tider Insider TV returns after the break. It wasn't just your ordinary Week 17 in the NFL. 3 divisions were up for grabs on the final week of the season, and former Alabama Crimson Tide safety Roman Harper helped the Carolina Panthers win the NFC South with this pick 6. They're going to host Arizona on Saturday. Here's a look at some other former Tide players. Stat lines: Eddie Lacy became the first back to rush for 100 yards against the Lions all year. He helped the Pack win the NFC North. And Kevin Norwood, how about him? He had his longest reception as an NFL player, a 31-yarder in the win over the Rams. It's good to see those guys kind of doing well in the NFL.
Yeah, it's great to see those guys. It's always good for the program, you know, especially when you're recruiting too, and all these young prospects see that you have guys successful on the next level. It certainly helps.
Absolutely. It's time now to head back to our number 1 recruit. That's Gary Harris, standing by in New Orleans. Gary, we got the rare chance to talk with Alabama's 2 coordinators this week, and with Lane Kiffin, it's always a treat.
BJ and Rodney, it really is quite a thrill to get an opportunity to sit down and listen to Lane Kiffin. You know, we don't get to do it very often. In fact, his only organized media press conference since becoming the offensive coordinator at Alabama was back before fall camp started. So this week, to have a chance to sit down and ask questions and listen to him for, around 30 minutes or so was quite a treat. And he really had some great information that he provided us. And, you know, the guy's a pro. You know, say what you want about him, like him, hate him. Lane Kiffin knows what he's doing, and he has received a lot of credit for this Alabama offense moving to a more up-tempo attack, running more plays, going no huddle, and everyone's just kind of assumed that Kiffin has been the one behind that change, but not so fast, my friends. Lane told us this week that it was Nick Saban who actually told him, hey, I want to keep up with the times. Let's speed it up on offense.
I get a lot of credit for the up-tempo offense and what we've done with Blake and changing from what we did before. But the reality of the story is this up-tempo offense and going faster and having the fast plays is all Coach Saban. This was him from the first day that I got here, almost every day talking about we need to play faster. We need to be more explosive. We need to run more plays. We need to give defenses more problems. And so really it was what has happened this year with this offense and the numbers and Blake and everything really are a credit to Coach Saban and what from the first day, what he saw going on in college football and said, well, if it's working so well and it gives people so many problems, why aren't we doing it? And that's where we are today.
You know, Kiffin made it a point to tell us reporters that his phone wasn't exactly ringing off the hook when Coach Saban called him, and he said it's been the best move career-wise that he's ever made coming to Alabama. Well, Kirby Smart may not be the rock star that Lane Kiffin is, but the Alabama defensive coordinator has certainly put together an incredible track record here in Tuscaloosa working for Nick Saban and running the Crimson Tide defense. And this year's squad, well, they've had some issues in the secondary, no doubt about that. At times they've given up plays, but they've been very good in the red zone. They've affected the quarterback, and it's been a resilient group. Smart says this is a group that never got down, always continued to fight.
I think it's a real resilient group, really good job in the red area, stopping people, holding them to field goals. I think the identity's been mixed bag of tricks because we've been good sometimes and we've been sloppy sometimes. So at the end of the day, I hope they finish on the note that we started with stopping people in the red area, being physical at the run, and not giving up the big plays. You know, we got to force more turnovers. We haven't been able to do that. So I hope we can finish with that identity of the typical Alabama defense, which is stop the run first, don't give up big plays, and force turnovers.
Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart, as you pointed out, BJ, we don't get a chance to hear from them very often, but they're both real pros and great football coaches. All right, that's going to wrap it up for now from New Orleans. I'm looking forward to rejoining you guys in just a little bit when we talk about who we think is going to win the game on Thursday night. All I've got for you for now from New Orleans. Let's go back to the studio.
Thanks, Gary. I thought he was going to give away his pick right there. I was going to try to hold him off. We'll check back with Gary at the end of the show, where we will give our big Sugar Bowl picks. Now, coming up next, it's a must-see interaction between an Alabama fan and Dabo Swinney. Stay tuned for that. You're going to want to see it. Plus, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information right there on your screen. Interact with us at Tider Insider TV. Right now, go ahead and give us a call. Send us an email or tweet at us. We'll be right back with Tider Insider TV on WVUA. You know, Rodney, here in Alabama, fans are very loyal, especially to former players and coaches. That's no different even when those former Tide athletes move on to other schools. Well, that was certainly evident this weekend at Clemson's bowl practice in Orlando, where Dabo Swinney found that out firsthand.
It's like meeting Nick Saban. Yes.
Come on now.
No, you know what, though?
I draw the line right
no,
now.
Wait,
listen, Elizabeth. Next time Wendy comes to Clemson, give me at least a week's notice, okay? I need to know. Well,
and I am an Alabama fan. Now, let's get that straight. I love it. I eat it. I breathe it. But he reminds me. Okay. Now, I know y'all might look. 7 million, let's be good.
Yeah.
He gets on there, he's intense, he doesn't hang out with anybody. I watch him walking back and forth. Is that not true?
Yes,
Dabo, you're the best. You're the best.
There you go. A lot of love for Dabo Swinney, right?
I tell you what, he's a great guy. I mean, he really is. He was drawing that line, though, wasn't he?
He was, absolutely.
That's enough.
Don't compare me to Nick Saban. Now, before we get to phone calls, Rodney, news comes out today in the recruiting world regarding an Alabama recruit for the class of 2015. What can you tell us about Louisiana receiver Dalen Charlotte?
Well, I mean, he's kind of been back and forth. He committed to Alabama originally quite some time ago. Actually, last February, I think it was. And, he's from the state of Louisiana, Patterson, Louisiana. He certainly, there's a lot of pressure on him to stay in the state. He says he's no longer committed at this time, but that Alabama is still his leader. And LSU is the other team in the mix. But, we'll just have to see what he does. He's an outstanding player. And, the way it is now, BJ, you really have to wait until, you get closer to signing day to figure out sometimes what these guys are really going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to get those guys out of Louisiana sometimes. It's now time, of course, to the first time to head to our Med Center hotline. We've got Harold in Anniston. Harold, what you got for us tonight?
Hey, how you doing, guys? Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Hey, I'd like to know, this team I've been rooting for it. I'd like to know how y'all feel. I would really love to see Blake Sims win this with all the, controversy he went through this year. How do y'all feel about it?
You want us to go first, BJ?
You go first.
I think Harold would be one of the greatest things in the history of Alabama football. I mean, one of the greatest stories. I've been following it a long time. First game I ever watched was 1968 Cotton Bowl, Gene Stallings, Texas A&M team against Alabama. And so I've been following it quite some time. And when you look at it, Harold, I just think it would be one of the more magnificent stories in Alabama football history. You talk about a guy who really waited his turn. I mean, he could have left. He was a great athlete. There was a lot of teams that recruited him out of high school, but he never really got frustrated. He was always a team guy, always very supportive of A.J. McCarron and all of his teammates. And, I mean, what can you say?
Yeah,
Jacob Coker transfers in here. Everybody talking about he was going to be the guy, didn't give Blake a chance.
Right.
But, again, great story.
I would raise my hand. I will convict myself. I was one of those guys who said, they're bringing in Jake Coker. Surely he's going to start.
Well, and again, I think there was a reason they did that.
Right.
And certainly because he's an outstanding player, Jacob Coker. But at the same time, Blake Sims did not let that deter him from his preparation to win the job, and he did a fantastic job.
Great story for sure. We go next to Jason in Brilliant. Jason, what do you got for us tonight, buddy?
This question for Rodney. Can you maybe talk about some of the big 4 or 5-star recruits that may be coming in this spring to take the place of some of these guys that's going to be leaving this year?
Well, again, you're talking about a program here at Alabama, Jason, that has a lot of players already in it that have been going through the system, so to speak, that maybe some of our fans don't really know as much about. But at the same time, those guys are the incoming freshmen certainly always have an opportunity to contribute. And, some guys will be coming in the spring. One guy, of course, Blake Barnett, the quarterback, who maybe has been one of Alabama's best recruiters in this class, but out of Santiago, California, and he is a tremendous prospect at the quarterback position. He'll be coming in early. Ronnie Harrison's a tremendous safety prospect out of Tallahassee, Florida, who will be coming in earlier. There's about 6 or 7 guys. We really can't detail them all, but as we get closer to it, we'll certainly kind of profile each one of them.
Not too far away.
Yep.
Signing day 2015. More coming your way on TITV, including a big non-conference win for the Alabama men's basketball team. We'll hear from Coach Grant, and of course, more of your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the information. We'll be right back on the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. Well, it took a while to get it, but Anthony Grant has finally gotten that big non-conference victory in December. Alabama defeated UCLA on 56-50 on Sunday night. Ricky Tarrant led the way with 24 points. Bama had to hold on in the end after building a comfortable lead at the half, but as Coach Grant said after the game, that's encouraging.
Stay together and maintain poise. I don't think we ever gave up the lead in the second half. So, that's something that certainly I think we're getting better. I think we can continue to get better. I think we will continue to get better as a team. So it's a real gritty, well-deserved win for our guys today.
Alabama back in action on Friday against North Florida at Coleman Coliseum. We're going to take a couple of email questions today. The first one comes from Billy in Northport. He asked, what's kept Reuben Foster from playing more this season? I think we obviously know one of the big reasons, Rodney.
Well, I think, certainly with his issues, he's had some stingers and some other injuries that have prevented him from, probably playing a little bit more. And I think, again, also the fact that, you have some guys in front of you that are really doing a good job, and Reggie Ragland and Trey DePriest. But I think, if Reuben can stay healthy, he's got a good future.
And that defense isn't exactly one that you can just jump into and do, what a lot of people kind of, I guess, expect. They put those expectations on these guys who are 5 stars, 4 stars coming in. We've got another email question about Amari Cooper. Actually, this one came from Twitter, @UStadium. Do you think Amari Cooper will be a top 5 NFL draft pick, Rodney?
I really haven't seen the latest projections. I would certainly think that Amari Cooper is, right there in terms of the top 5 picks, or, certainly top 10. I mean, he's a magnificent talent. We all know that, and I wouldn't be surprised how high he went, to be honest with you.
The Bucs have number 1 pick. I don't think he'll go that high.
He'll probably take a quarterback.
There you go. And then you've got a lot of people are wanting the Raiders to pick Amari, and that's been a big thing on Twitter.
He said he'd like to go to the Dolphins, I think.
There you go. I think they've got a high pick too.
Hometown.
There you go. Thank you for the phone calls, the tweets, the emails coming up on the show. We're going back down to the Crescent City. We're all going to make our picks on the show and see how this game is going to go. Stay with us. Tider Insider TV is going to be back on a beautiful night in Tuscaloosa right after the break. Well, it won't be long now until the Superdome will be full of Crimson Tide and Buckeye fans. Superdome, of course, is going to be hosting guys like that. Amari Cooper has a long, rich tradition of championship wins there. Alabama does. The last time they were there a year ago, the memory not so good. So let's get down to it, Rodney. The game for us, let's pick it. Who do you see winning this game? How do you see it going?
Well, again, I think when you look at it, I think Alabama's the better team, BJ. I think they have experience on their side in terms of, where they are with their current personnel. And I think, Alabama's kind of been on a roll. I think Ohio State's kind of more of an up-and-coming type team, but I think right now Alabama's a little bit ahead of Ohio State. I think if Alabama can focus on stopping the run, and they shut them down and make Cardale Jones, the third-string quarterback, beat them, I think it's going to be difficult for Ohio State. I picked Alabama 35-21.
There it is, 35-21. Let's head back down to New Orleans, where Gary Harris is standing by. Gary, I'm going to guess that you're picking Alabama, but I'm going to let you get your prediction in.
Well, last year, I thought Alabama would run Oklahoma right out of the Superdome. How'd that work out? Not too good. But, you know, this is a different season, and it's a whole different scenario. Alabama is playing for a championship again, and Nick Saban playing for championships equals victories for the Crimson Tide. I know this is just a semifinal game, but this Alabama team, there's just something about it. They have really learned how to win. They love playing with and for each other. I got a lot of respect for Urban Meyer and Ohio State. I really, really do. But Alabama's still more talented, still has better depth, and is going to win this football game by a couple of touchdowns. I like the Tide 42-27, but a game that is still contested well into the third quarter. I think Alabama pulls away, though, and wins it in the fourth quarter. Bama 42, Buckeyes 27.
All right, thanks, Gary. I guess I have to make a pick, too.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's going to be closer than the experts expect. I'm going to say about 34-28.
Okay.
I'm going to go within about
Yeah.
a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it is. So anytime I feel my gut sometimes is right, and it tells me that Ohio State's going to keep this thing close. So.
Well, I tell you what, that's a lot of points for Ohio
That
State
is.
with a third-string quarterback, but, you know, you never know.
There you go. I'm wrong about a lot of things.
No, you could be right.
There you go. Thanks very much to Buddy's Rib and Steak. They are providing dinner for us tonight. That's where Rodney and the crew are probably going to head for dinner. And as always, thanks to the locker room, these nice shirts that they provide. And as always, do not forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can always catch the replay tonight at 10:30 after the news at 10, and always online at WVUATV.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good night.